Algebra 2, 4.7, Part 2 notes, the quadratic formula. This is similar to yesterday's lesson, but the answers will not always simplify to be integers or fractions. All right, so first up, we need to get our equation in the ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 form. So for this first one, we just need to subtract that 4 to the other side. All right, so we'll get 2x squared minus x minus 4 equals 0. And then quadratic formula, we've got our a is 2, our b is -1, and our c is -4. So we can go x equals -b. Since b is already negative, we change it to positive. Positive 1 plus or minus square root of b squared. 1 squared is 1, minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. All right, so go ahead and work on simplifying that. I will do that as you do it as well. All right, as you're simplifying under the radical, remember you have a negative times a negative, that's going to turn to positive. And then that 1 that we had over here, it was -1 squared, but that will also turn to positive because you're squaring a negative. All right, so if we simplify that, 1 plus or minus square root of 33 over 4. 33 is not a perfect square, so we can't simplify that to be a whole number. And I can't pull any perfect squares out of it, like square root of 4 or square root of 9. Nothing can be simplified, so that's going to be your answer. So that's how I want you to leave that. Now, if we did want to find the decimal answer, you could type that in your calculator, 1 plus the square root of 33, all divided by 4, and then 1 minus the square root of 33, all divided by 4. All right, let's move over to part B. Why don't you guys try that one? Go ahead and figure out what is your A, B, and C, and then plug it into that quadratic formula. So I'll let you guys work on that one for a minute. And go ahead and pause the video. All right, so if we plug everything in, we end up getting what's under the radical as 0. So the square root of 0 is 0. So -6 plus or minus 0 just becomes -6. And then divided by 2 is -3. So normally you're going to get 2 answers, but this one you only have 1 answer. So now if that was set equal to y and I wanted to go back and graph that, the reason you're only getting 1 answer is because that is the vertex. So if I would graph that from there, it would look something like that. Okay. All right, let's go to C. Here we go. So first thing we need to do is get it set equal to 0. Now, it doesn't matter if you move everything to the left or everything to the right. When we factor, we always want to make that x squared be the positive term. But for this one, it doesn't really matter. I went ahead and moved it to the right just because then I only have 1 thing to move instead of 2 things to move. But it doesn't matter which side you move it to. So if you get opposite signs as me, then we would still get the same final answer. Just our process will be a little different. So x equals -b plus or minus square root of b squared. So 4 squared is 16. Even though it's a negative, -4 times -4. Minus 4ac. Don't forget to make that c be negative. All over 2a. All right, so take a minute to simplify that. I'll kind of do it with you as you go. All right, so under the radical, we have a 16. And then remember, we have a negative times a negative. That's going to turn it to a positive. So 4 times 8, 32. So 4 plus or minus square root of 48 all over 2. And then now this kind of looks like a problem that we had a couple days ago on simplifying the radicals. So what we want to do here is break down that 48, we're thinking of what perfect square goes into 48. And you may be thinking 4, but there is a bigger one. So if you do 4 and 12, that's okay. We just have to do it again. If you can find that bigger one, 16 and 3, that just saves you a little bit of couple steps. So we go x equals 4 plus or minus 4 times the square root of 3 all over 3, or all over 2. There we go. So now we have one more step to simplify that because we can take a 2 out of all 3 of these terms. So our final answer will be, so how I think of this is divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So then our final answer is 2 plus or minus 2 times square root of 3. Remember, you don't have to take a 2 out of the radical, just the number out in front. And then it's all over 1, so you don't need to write the denominator. You can just leave it as 2 plus or minus 2 times square root of 3. All right, go ahead and try that problem D. And again, even though that A term is negative, that's perfectly fine. So when I would do this problem, I would just jump and let A be negative 4. I wouldn't worry about making it positive like we do when we factor. B is negative 6 and C is negative 1. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out how to solve this. I will jump back in when you get the radical that you need to simplify. All right, so we have our initial step, 6 plus or minus square root of 6 squared, which is 36, minus 4 times A times C, all over 2A. Now notice we have a negative times a negative times a negative. Negative times negative turn to positive, so if we have 3 of them that we're multiplying, it's back to a negative. So it's going to be 36 minus 4 times 4, 16 times 1, 16. All over negative 8. X equals 6 plus or minus square root of 20 all over negative 8. So now we can break apart that square root of 20. 6 plus or minus, think of which perfect square goes into 20. So we're thinking, does 4 go into 20 or 9, 16? 4 is the only one that will go into 20. So 4 times 5 got us to 20. So we can go x equals 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5 all over negative 8. Now you could take a 2 out of everything and get x equals 3 plus or minus square root of 5 all over negative 4. That's one way to write it. Or we can actually take a negative 2 out of everything. A lot of times, like the in the answer book, if you're checking it with any type of online resource or anything, then they don't like having the negative in the denominator. They'd rather have it in the numerator. So if we took everything divided by negative 2, then it'd be negative 3. Now, if I divide plus or minus by a negative 1, I still have plus or minus. So it doesn't actually change that number, but then the denominator just changes to positive. So either of those is fine to leave it. Fix this 3 here. Either way. All right, so what you guys can work on is you can finish up the 4.7 part 1 assignment, which was a worksheet, and then work on this new assignment, which is in your textbook. Okay, it's also posted on Canvas. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.